All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the My Purpose Path podcast here with Jelte, founder of Founders Lair. Great to be here. Jelte, why don't you start introducing yourself?
Sure. I don't have to introduce myself to you. We know each
That's
other
right.
for quite a long while. I'm Jelte. I'm originally from Germany and roughly 10 years now in China, in Beijing. I've also lived a while in Shanghai. And I am actually from the consulting industry, helped first mid-sized companies to come into the Asian market. But at one point, I shifted more towards innovation and entrepreneurship. Long history there is my sister is an entrepreneur herself, or was an entrepreneur at that time in New York. She told me entrepreneurship is way more fun than the corporate world, and that's where I tried to make the shift. This actually brought me first to Startup Grind. That was back in 2016 when I became first Startup Grind director in Beijing, managing the local chapter. Startup Grind is the largest independent startup community in the world. And I figured out that's my passion. I really like it, and I became somewhat good at it because in 2018 I managed to scale it to the largest community or local chapter in over 600 cities. And then later on, I became also the China director, and also later in 2022, also the interim APAC director.
I can attest to that because it's been an epic journey and chapter. I was very fortunate actually to meet Jelte through Cynthia just before the first Beijing event, and was very fortunate to join the crew under Yelte's leadership. And I can only say I learned so much about the startup ecosystem and what it means to build communities. And but let's talk more, right? I think everybody's curious, like how your path unfolded.
Yeah.
Maybe we speak a bit more. Also, super impressive building the most active and most vibrant, biggest chapter out of 600 cities, right?
Yeah.
What led to that success? I know, but I think the story is worth to be shared with the world.
Yeah, I think one of the most critical parts was I had a keen interest to learn. So many of the chapters, the core thing of every chapter is doing monthly events. And usually there is a fireside chat where the director interviews a founder. And I was deeply interested in learning from the entrepreneurs or the VCs. So I wanted to do the events to be on stage to actually learn. But I also realized that at one point, that other people in the team also wanted to learn, and it became actually quite interesting to see the team dynamics, to have different roles where people can learn and try out doing introductions or being on stage themselves. And then at one point I figured out I don't need to do everything myself because I learned after 1 or 2 years enough myself, but I wanted to see how are other people doing it. So then I opened up to co-directors, team members to also take the stage and interview and to learn. And because of that, we were able to do more than just one event per month. We did at 1.3 or 4 events, and none of them I had to manage anymore. And we had a standing team later on, a core team of 15 people, I think, then 35 or something, also biggest team in general in Startup.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And what was the big contributor to make the community so vibrant and successful? Because back then, I just caught up with a German friend, Anna, now at TUM. You probably remember her.
Yeah.
And she also said, like, she came to the Startup Grind events, and at that time, like, it seemed like everybody wanted to be there, or like, but what was the core driver, like, that made it so successful?
I think one thing was we were bringing people together. One thing that was missing in Beijing was a platform where people can meet and exchange. International entrepreneurs were scattered. The Chinese interpretation of community was a bit different. And we were also looking for a way to have an information exchange. And these events were part of that, but also the WeChat groups were part of that. And we scaled this, and more people became interested. Like corporates wanted to sponsor or find startups, entrepreneurs wanted to come and find investors, and that's why we started at one point also the founder lunches and so on. So targeted events like this, and more people wanted to volunteer. Students wanted to try out what does it mean to work for a community organization like this. And I think we were just at the right time, at the right place, because Beijing was in dire need for something like that. Other places in the world, maybe you have that already, like New York or Berlin, you have vibrant communities. But here in China, in Beijing, there was a vacuum, like people were missing this kind of activities.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then how did the path continue to you deciding like to eventually start Founders Lair?
Yeah, that's a good question. So at the end, there's a certain path of frustration. I always wanted to help more founders. So I got approached weekly by tens and maybe hundreds of founders, and they all said, who should I meet? Where should I go? What kind of resources are out there? And time is scarce. Like you cannot scale that up. I thought first, I can do that through a job. So I worked for Johansson Innovate, state-owned enterprise focusing on entrepreneurship. The resources were not enough. Then I thought, okay, community should be able to do that. But even a team of 35 people and the platform and everything, it didn't work really out. So then I thought, okay, I learned the community way, I learned the corporate way, and but what is missing is a central point of information flow. We can find what's there and who to know and how to access. And I thought there must be a platform like this. There were some out there, but never really something based on the foundation of what I believe in, which is like make introductions, give first, and help.
Like
and
the startup grind value.
Exactly,
Giving first.
exactly.
I love that.
Something beyond events. And this is what brought us to actually start Founders Lair. And just a fun fact here, Founders Lair was more in the beginning a practical trial to see what it is like to have a company in China, because I was also advising international startups to land here in China. And I felt a little bit like I'm an imposter because I've never done it myself. It's like asking a VC to invest into startups, but you've never started your own company. What right do you have to actually judge startups on their quality? So I also said, how does it feel? And that's why I started my own company first. And then the idea materialized more and more. And I thought, okay, I can do this. And lucky coincidence then was, because I needed a technical co-founder to do this, that Fabienne, my CTO, was open to work on this with us together. Before, we had other co-founders that were trying, but they were not technical enough, like Leonardo, our CXO. He started building the first website and so on and so on. But at one point, we needed code. And that's where Fabienne came in, also Startup Grind director of Chengdu. And he helped them to build the first technical viable version of our company.
And all the co-founders actually came from the Startup Grind and Innovate ecosystem, right? So I also love that. I mean, our relationship goes again back to 2016, and you have been immensely helpful also when I was spearheading Angel Hack here. Very grateful always for that. It was amazing. And
I think that's mutual.
Exactly. Thank you. But then, for me, it's amazing. I actually last night we had a deep conversation about what friendship mean to us with the people we sit together for a nice dinner. And I love that actually, like, you now, the co-founders, they all been friends, right? And they've been part of your journey. And I think that's also something really, really beautiful, because so many people ask, or we are being asked, like, what does it take to have a great co-founder? Maybe we just continue there. I didn't think about that question before, but
that question is tough. I think on the hindsight, I definitely like all the people that I founded the company with. But if I would start again, I would probably choose to do it leaner. There was something where I was too ambitious. We started with 5 co-founders in total. But after a year, then we reduced it down to 4, which is still too much in the corporate world, because if you're leading something, you need very clear communication, direction, and the capability of enduring pressure. And that is, the bigger your founding team, the harder this actually becomes, because you have a lot of expectation management to do. Nonetheless, because of my work and exchange at Startup Grind with people, I could see, okay, Fabian is a great guy. He has the same values, so that's already validated. And I trust him. So I want to work with him together. He brings to the table what I don't have. Same with Leonardo in terms of design, and Sidhu in terms of finance. And this is what the community actually provides, that you can first get some friends and you can learn about what they can and what they cannot do. And then you build your Avengers team together and try to
that's the spirit, building the hero team.
Exactly.
and that's what is needed, right? Those actually balancing each other out. And I spoken with Jim the other day from Boostbot, another company I was glad through the ecosystem to have the chance to make an investment in as well. And they also said, like, without them having a strong relationship as founders, like, there are moments when you feel like throwing it all down. And I think actually when you have that relationship already before, and you have like an, so to say, an involvement with each other beyond founding the company, I think it can actually be beneficial, especially in times when the waters get really rough.
Yeah, it's a prerequisite. I mean, it's like getting married. You see the people probably more often than your partners, and you're going through things that are intense, like a marriage, like laying off people or raising money or putting in down the work. This is all you have to be like, you have to have your back. And if this is not the case, you will fail, and it will be so hard on yourself. So yeah, better know your founders.
Amazing. And yet another thing that I wanted to talk with you about is we talked a little bit about power of community before, and you also bring that, in my opinion, in a very beautiful way to Founders Lair, to tap into, actually, you make it beyond your own community. You basically, if I say that correctly, you tap into the communities of the startup ecosystems all around the world, and source, but also contribute to those, I call them community change makers or community leaders, community experts, whatever we call them, right? I'm sure there are a lot of people that know about communities, but many they don't know. I would love to learn a little bit more about that approach, and how does it help your purpose, the purpose of Founders Lair, to empower the startup ecosystems, and also you as a company, and then also those connectors.
First one, we are still figuring things out. So we are not done yet. I think if you want to build a tech product around a community, it takes a long while to figure things out. The good thing is we have background in community management, so we know the dynamics, but every community that you intend to build has different dynamics, and it's different. For us, what we wanted to build is a community of startup ecosystem experts all around the world, because they can come from community like Startup Grind, but they can be from VC or corporate, anybody who has access to a lot of entrepreneurs. And usually on a daily basis, they want to help the startups. But because they only have their own horizon, they can often not provide the resources that the startups want. You know, that's the same with what I wanted to do with Startup Grind in Beijing, but my own horizon is not big enough, so I wanted to bring in more people. So what we wanted to build is a platform where you can go beyond this, and you can bring in more resources, that whenever someone approaches you, say like, what investment is there that I can tap into, or what kind of programs I can get into, then we as a platform provide that to you, and you can refer startups to this. We built their kind of a CRM system for the community, so they can track what kind of referrals they do and what startups actually get further. Because one more thing about community is you need to be very careful about what you do, because community will suck you out as well. There are a lot of takers. You don't know like what is really worth your time. You should believe definitely in give first, but you need to be careful with your time. And what we provide is a tracing mechanism of, is there over time a return? First of all, you get referral fees for some of our programs, but also the next one is you see the data. So if I refer a startup to a program and I see they do the work to actually get in, I see they care about my referral. So I can, from 100 startups, maybe 10 do that, just that you know what the statistics roughly are. So people approach me for help, tell them like, hey, you should do this. 10% of them do that. So then I know, okay, these 10% I will focus my time on. So
because they go further, and then that helps you with your long-term project. Maybe you invest in one or some of them in the future. Or who knows, right?
Exactly. There's a lot of talk in entrepreneurship and community, and I wanted to find a way that I save my time as well, because everything is energy and time, right?
Totally. That's what I talk with a lot of people about here on the podcast as well, as actually like, what do we do to energize ourselves? Because indeed everything is time and energy, and we have limited of both. We both became fathers in the last 2 years, and that is another big change in life, right? And then managing, again, I think we both have big goals and big dreams, and we care a lot about giving and contributing. I nearly broke down, going through some personal life challenges,
Yeah.
and at the same time still trying to contribute, but then also realizing like actually slow down, actually one day stop,
Yeah.
because I realized that I was going so empty inside myself, and I needed to recharge my own batteries.
Yeah.
And I
Very
think,
important.
yeah, everybody goes through that phase that takes this, no matter if it's community work or impact work, um, everybody's going through it. I think that's why it's so important actually to also have these tools, but then also I haven't joined the Connector Night in quite some time, but I know you run these beautiful Connector Nights where you bring the people together and where people can share, learn from each other.
Yeah.
I think these mechanisms actually to back up the community are really, really important.
Yeah, I'm also quite proud where we got to. We have right now 300 startup ecosystem experts in 100 countries or regions. And just last Friday, we had one where roughly 30 people came in. We had people from Georgia, which is always interesting that our network brings in so many people from Georgia, Japan, Pakistan, Nigeria, Kenya, Hong Kong, Germany, France, Italy, China, of course.
Of course.
So a lot. There are more and more. Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, Singapore. So if you ever have the chance to be in a room with people who have an expertise in something and they come from so many different parts of the world, try to make them your friends. And I'm so proud that we built actually a platform where you can make friends with people from all over the globe. Because at the end, I don't want to just stick around in one place. I want to go at one point to Japan and meet cool people there, or go to Germany and meet the right people. And our platform also helps us to validate a little bit who's cool, who's not. Because also that in the community,
How do we validate that?
I mean, again, it's the same with the founders. It's like who does the work, and we have track of that, so we know how much people actually support founders, and the people that that do that a lot, I'll reach out to them. Yep.
Another validation for where or in whom to put your energy or give
exactly.
back, so to say. I love that. And what else would you like to add? Maybe for people who are interested to start a community or join a community, maybe some suggestions for like how to get things started. That's something I've been asked in the last 2 years quite a bit. People realize there is a power there. I think maybe also a lot of people, especially after COVID, feel a need to get together more, both in person and face to face. So maybe what would be your top 3 tips to starting out a community?
So it depends if you have a product. If you don't have a product, community can be used in different ways. There are product communities, for example. You can have that around hairspray or whatever, or you can have that. You can have that about like startups or other topics like coding and so on and so on. I would say no matter what, the core should always be events, and you should be consistent, and you should be personally interested in this. Try to sit in the seat of organizing these events yourself. Get speakers there. Don't do that online. People are not really. That's the hard part about us, because many of our community events are online. So that's the hardest part of community building, I would say. But if you're in a place, try to organize these regular events that people can count for. Okay, this is happening. I can go there, and stand for quality. Try to get out of your juice. That, I mean, your own network of 10 people. Because if you always have every month the same 10 people coming, people get bored. So you also need to get fresh blood in terms of speakers, volunteers, and so on, and be consistent there. Do one event maximum per month, and change a bit about the topic. So if you're about entrepreneurship, start maybe with agri-tech, and you do that 3 or 4 events, focus on agri-tech, and get the experts in. Get a founder, get a VC, get an incubator, get a corporate, like every month one, and then afterwards you're an expert. You can shift towards the next one. And and probably one more important thing is don't be a dick. Like I think this withholding information from people, I've seen that too many people doing. Just be transparent. Like, if people come and ask you, just provide them with like solutions. people are so protective about everything. Of course, time is one thing. If people come in and ask you, like, do you have an hour for a coffee chat? I say, like, about what? So if it's not relevant, I also don't give that. But in general, if people ask you, like, what VCs do you know? I can say who I know. There again, that doesn't mean that I can directly or I will directly do an introduction. There's a validation again. There are certain levels of introductions that you can do. But anyway, you should be open with who's there. Even introduce your competitors. Like, we are a platform, we compete with companies. I still say, like, the world is small, go to them or go to them.
You never know when it comes
Yeah,
back, but
exactly.
when they see, hey, you send somebody to them, that drops that level of perceived competitiveness. And I just also had a conversation about that recently. Like, actually, like, the pie can be so much bigger, right? In so many fields.
And transparency always helps. It will always get people back to you because they will do their homework anyway.
Totally.
They will know if you fool them or not.
Totally.
They will get back and say,
Increase
hey,
the
that
level
really
of
helped me
trust so
because
much.
you told me all about this. Now I knew, and I stick with them or I stick with you. And so transparency always helps.
Yeah, and it's a great approach to sales as well, right? Again, it's all about building trust and connection, right? And Jelte, so before we come to an end here, maybe share a little bit more. We get to a proper sales pitch here. Like, how can Founders Lair help the corporates and the government accelerator and so on people out there, and then continue there. How can people listening to our podcast join the mission and vision of Founders Lair? And like, how can people help out you and the team as well?
I think the core that we are looking for right now is more people to join our community of startup ecosystem experts. So people who want to help startups in their network, may it be professionally or privately, from community perspective or work, doesn't matter. Those people, no matter where you are in the world, we would like to talk with you, that you can join one of our community events, and you can see how you can help startups in your community with the programs that we have on our platform, and also how it helps you to, first of all, monetize on your network, save time, and get very interesting data on the activities that you do every day, but you have no insights on. So those people we would like to meet, because they also have usually then VCs in the network, they want to source startups. They struggle with other things. So these people can bring these programs from the VCs on our platform and serve them there, instead of just saying, hey, VC, I bring you some startups to you, and you never know.
Random intro, but
exactly.
Here's a whole network with
on our
people
platform,
all
you can
around the
trace it all. So that's why we are more targeting towards people who have a big network of entrepreneurs and want to help them better.
Amazing, amazing. And the company started out here in beautiful Beijing, and actually now you have an office in Singapore, right? And serve clients all around the world. That is amazing.
There was also something interesting that I think Beijing offered us, because despite the international view on China being like this country in a dome, which is not very internationally connected, I think Beijing is the right place to do international business, because the international community is small, but it's intense. Everybody's a foreigner. You can meet anybody from anywhere quite fast. So if I want to meet someone from India or Nigeria or something, I can just go to one event here on the street. I meet everyone. I think that's not possible anywhere else in the world. And this allowed us to become actually that kind of international platform. And now we're serving 300 clients, and we have around 5,000 to 6,000 startups from 120 countries.
Amazing. And same when people come to Beijing, right? If you're in the ecosystem, like hit up Jelte or somebody from the team. And if Jelte is not available, he knows so many people. So unsolicited invitation, right? Make sure to connect. And
happy to say hi.
Beijing is a city that, as those who know me listening, given me so much. And even though I'm living mostly in Southeast Asia now, it's always great to come back, catch up with people. And with that, any closing remarks from your sides? Any suggestions for our change makers out here?
probably the one thing that is most important to me right now is take care of your time and energy. This is nothing that you will get from anybody. You have to be very careful with that, and you might learn that the hard way, or you might learn that an okay way. But be prepared and be careful with your energy, and say more no than yes, and make the yes count.
Make the yes count, exactly. Okay, that's a great topic for content. I'll be talking more about that. Jelte, my friend, thank you, man. And good to have this session. And over and out. Cheers, everybody.